It's decision week in Nigeria, exactly 2 days to the presidential and National Assembly elections. And Nigerians are counting down as they prepare to vote. Thanks for joining us on the program. I am Abosedi Adeniran. Old Naira notes remain legal tender. That's coming from the Supreme Court as the court adjourns to the 3rd of March for judgment. The Apex Court earlier consolidated the suits instituted by more than 12 state governments. In identifying and adopting their processes, counsel to Kogi and Kaduna states pressed the court to grant the reliefs in their application, while urging the court to set aside the preliminary objection of the defendants because they are in contempt of court. The Attorney General, in his preliminary objection and counter affidavit, noted that if the Supreme Court holds that all reliefs are embedded in Section 20 of the CBN Act, then the Apex Court has no jurisdiction to entertain the suit, as the action cannot commence with an originating summons. The plaintiffs did not bring the CBN governor to court as a respondent after referring to him 32 times in their originating summons.
The President has the power, further to Section 23, to direct the CBN government. But the time frame given for this policy to be implemented and the terms are very short, and it's not convenient for the plaintiffs and the Nigerians to conform. That's why you have seen a lot of chaos everywhere. The President has powers, but that power must be exercised judicially and judiciously.
Trying to salvage a difficult situation. That's where we are. The Supreme Court is trying to do that. The President is trying to do that. It's one nation, one people. We are looking for solutions. Please, those who have this Naira in their hands should submit them to the CBN or any banks designated for that purpose. Nobody will lose his money if you try to comply.
Well, Nigerians are on the receiving end of the scarcity as long queues persist as banks despite the recirculation of old 200 Naira notes. Now, moving away from there, surprising, you may call it, but it is true, as thousands of voter cards have been found, dumped inside bush in Anambra State and picked up by some Nigerians. It was gathered that the PVCs were mainly meant for Nnewi North. Our Anambra State correspondent Bamidele Ajayi now joins me on the program for more on this. Bamidele, what have you gathered as the effort in place to get the truth out of this matter?
It is a development that got many, wondering what would have left there. Owing to the fact that as of 7th December 2022, Anambra has 132,000 complete PVCs, also with 2.5 million registered voters in this election. Now, how will that number of PVCs be found in the forest as, submitted by the two hunters that is found with? Also, I spoke with the MD of Authority Express, where the PVCs do. Saturday says they were tonnage on standard numbers of PVCs collected in that forest. And those hunters said they were on their way to the forest when they saw it. They have to now bring it out to Authority Express, which is the closest radio house that in tells why would this happen when you have to do the election. And also that Anambra is having 132,626 complete PVC as of 7th December 2022. So no one has answers today. We also spoke with the PPRO, that the Kenya people told us that no one has ever approached the command with respect to this, that there is no formal written that first thing they found but that the Commissioner of Police, etc., has ordered them to investigate with the promise that if anyone found wanting, that the person to be prosecuted.
Well, Bamidele, as it stands, are there plans to actually figure out the owners of those PVCs and perhaps hand the PVCs over to them before election days?
The MD authorities that chartered authorities told us that this morning when they got to the office, they were now informed to take the PVCs to the Igwe Umodin. They're taking the PVCs to the Igwe Palace, where they were now asking people in that community to come and pick up the PVCs. You know, now we have 4 clans. You have your solo, the Igwe Umodin, that Naira. But the set names on those PVCs definitely belong to people in Umodin. That's why they see the PVCs through the palace of the Igwe. That people, what they now do is to go there, identify if you are the owner of the PVC, according to them that they're going to be the box. Now, the PVC is in the custody of the Obi of Umodin.
But so far, Bamidele, what has been the reaction of the people of Naira North to this discovery, and how eager are they to approach the palace of the Obi to pick up, to search and confirm and then pick up their PVCs?
Like I said earlier, the incident got many people, got turned back and they said, they never said, because a particular lady we spoke with said, she spent days trying to get her PVC picked up at Oka, the state capital. Not owing to the fact that we now said they now found some PVC Found. So they were like, they're not able to know what really happened. The question now was that, how did the PVC get to the forest? Then who will have, because how would a PVC disappear from an island facility? So these are the questions that, they're begging for answers. But police command promised to investigate the matter. But also frustrating enough, we tried to reach the secretary who the PRO, INEC. I sent text to him, he didn't reply. I also called him severally. So just for us to know the authority position of, if they have the information of the disappearance of PVC, was not able to give us anything. But now, people are now asking, how would a PVC disappear from INEC office and be found in Akam Village Forest, close to Osobule? That's the question people are just, get answers to.
And Nigerians would definitely want to see this mystery properly unraveled. Thanks, Bamidele Ajayi, for talking to us on the program. Now, let's return to our earlier report about the scarcity of Naira notes and the fact that Nigerians are actually on the receiving end of the Naira scarcity despite the recirculation of old 200 Naira notes. Our correspondent Celestina Area joins me now on the program. Celestina, bring us up to speed on what transpired at the court earlier today.
Okay, Ambassador, it was a long day at the Supreme Court. The court adjourned after hearing all the processes and parties were adopted processes after identifying the various processes. Adjourned to March 3rd for judgment. On that day, the issue of Naira redesign, be it the limits of withdrawal by 20,000 Naira or the use of the old Naira notes and the availability of the new Naira notes will all be addressed. But today, the 10 states governments made the application, they adopted same, wherein they asked the Supreme Court to set aside the directive made by the President on the 15th of February, wherein he said that only the 200 Naira old notes should be brought back into circulation until April, and the 1,000 Naira notes and the 500 Naira old notes cease to be legal tender. Because the Supreme Court order as at February 8th was the fact that the old Naira notes are still legal tender. So it was against the order given by the Supreme, the President directive was against the order by the Supreme Court. And that was one of the points raised by the Attorney General of Lagos State, where he said that the AGF should not be given an audience, should not be granted an audience by the Supreme Court because they are in contempt of court. And also the Kano State's Attorney General made it known to the court that the monetary policy, the decision by the President was against Section 147 and 148 of the Constitution, because he only relied on the advice by the CBN governor, which the finance minister is not even aware of the cash redesign policy, because she stated that she was not even brought to notice during the cash redesign policy. That was supposed to be done by the Economic Council. The president ought to have sought the advice of the Economic Council before making that directive. Since it's the monetary policy, the Economic Council ought to be brought together. So in a nutshell, the Supreme Court justices led by Justice John Okoro made it known that the Supreme Court would not be used as an example. In his words, he said scapegoat, because all eyes now are now on the Supreme Court to see what the Supreme Court will say. It's not a fight between the executive and the judiciary, but it's following the rule of law and the Constitution. Because we know for a fact that what has been the precedent is when new Naira notes are introduced into the system, the old Naira notes are allowed to gradually phase out. When those money are paid into the bank, these commercial banks, those banks hold the money and don't return it back into circulation. That has been the norm right from the onset. So why at this particular point in time the CBN governor is putting a time frame as to when Naira notes of 200, 500 and 1,000 will cease to be legal tender. So the question now is, will anybody face any jeopardy if this old Naira notes are allowed to gradually phase out has been the norm before now? So all of these issues were canvassed in court, and the Supreme Court has adjourned to 3rd March for judgment.
Celestina, how optimistic are counsel to the state government that the judgment would actually be in their favor? Well, Celestina, I was actually asking the level of optimism that the counsel to the state government have at this time, that the decision, the judgment of the Supreme Court would favor them and their citizens.
Well, as a matter of fact, I said, we cannot preempt the Supreme Court, but Justice John Okoro made it known that everybody is feeling the brunt of the Naira scarcity. Them as Supreme Court justices don't even have access to the new Naira notes, nor have access to the old Naira notes. Some ATMs are not dispensing cash, and some banks you go to withdraw, they give individual customers as low as 5,000 Naira, so the money should go around. Yes, the Supreme Court, the CBN, they made it known that the CBN governor has already stated that he has been acting on the directive of the president. So the issue now is, does the CBN, did the president have the power to give that directive when he stated that it is only the 200 Naira that is still a legal tender as against the Supreme Court's order? Yes, the president has the veto power, the power to veto any legislation, but this is a monetary policy which he ought to have sought the counsel of the Economic Council. But though the primary objection raised by the AGF was to the fact that the president is not against, did not go against the Supreme Court's order, that whatever the president did was to ensure that the order was followed, and also the president is trying to ensure that this policy works to survey the situation.
Now, so much to say about this matter, and all eyes are actually on the Supreme Court, especially ahead the 3rd of March when it would deliver its judgment in this matter. Celestina Naira, judiciary correspondent for us there in Abuja. Now, to protect the integrity of the 25th of February presidential and National Assembly elections, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has deployed officers of the commission to the 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory to monitor the polls. In a statement by the head media and publicity, Wilson Owojaren, the executive chairman of the commission, Abdurrashid Bawa, charged the operatives to be conscious of the interests of the nation and to exhibit a high sense of professionalism in the discharge of their duties. He said, quote, "You are out on a national assignment, and I expect you to conduct yourselves responsibly in line with our core values of professionalism, integrity, and courage. You have a responsibility to ensure that this election is devoid of financial malpractices, especially inducement of voters. The attention of the world is focused on Nigeria, and we must do what is necessary to ensure that we have credible, free, and fair elections," end of quote. Apart from the teams deployed across the country, the EFCC has also released incident reporting hotlines for the 36 states of the Federation and the FCT. The Commission urges members of the public to report any case of vote buying or selling, or other evidence of financial malpractices designed to compromise the electoral outcome through these hotlines. After the break, we'll tell you more about the chances of the APC presidential candidate, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, in the presidential election. Stay with us. In few days, Nigerians will decide President Buhari's successor, as the All Progressives Congress is making all effort to retain the seat of power. Deputy spokesperson APC PCC media team Hannatu Musawa joins me on the program. Thank you for joining us at this time. It's 2 days to the elections, and of course Nigerians are still pained about the Naira scarcity. We know that your principal's position on this matter has been harped on several times. What really is the message the APC is sending across to the voters ahead of the election?
Thank you very, very much for having me on the show this evening. Our message to the voters is to remain steadfast. We have 2 days to go to the national election. It's an election that all of us have been anticipating for quite a while. We want our supporters to remain steadfast and to be brave and to go and register their votes. It's very important for them to be able to exercise their constitutional duty and right in order to be able to play a part in building their future. And we hope that with the high turnout of voters, I think you will find that Asiwaju Bola Tinubu has always been the front runner. He remains the front runner and will be the front runner going to the election, and coming out of the election, he will be hopefully declared as winner. So I want every single one of our supporters and our voters to remain steadfast and to continue to pray and to go and exercise this civic duty that they have to vote on election day.
Well, the Supreme Court has adjourned to the 3rd of March now. Judgment in the matter of the Naira redesign policy. How optimistic is your party, and what really are your expectations from the judgment of the Supreme Court?
Our hope is, because the Apex Court has spoken, I think everyone in the land, bar none, should abide by what the Apex Court has said, which is for the situation to be maintained, status quo to remain. And that means that every single denomination is legal tender, including 500 and 1,000 Naira note. And that is that's the position of the Supreme Court for now, up until the 3rd of March, in which it will make its further determination. However, for us as a party and for us as a campaign, it doesn't really matter what will happen. Whatever decision is made, we are optimistic either way. The victory is on our side. I think we've done enough work up until now that it would literally take a miracle to derail Asiwaju Bola Tinubu's victory at the polls. I really do hope, though, that every single party, everyone in the country, would abide by what the Supreme Court has said, because that is what the Constitution that that's the rule of law, basically. If we're a country that really adheres ourselves to the rule of law, then I think it is vitally important for us to obey what the Supreme Court has said. And if we don't, it sets a really, really dangerous precedent moving forward.
Well, it's 2 days to the presidential and National Assembly elections, and it's on record that your party and your candidate have been to the nooks and crannies of the country, canvass and vote. What really is the response you've been receiving beyond the crowd at rallies?
Honestly, and I say this hand on heart, The response has been absolutely phenomenal. You know, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not an unknown name to everyone in Nigeria. And for those that support us and those that really wanted to know what he was about, you know, it was very exciting for them to be able to interact with him in the way that they were able to when he visited their communities in the town hall meetings and in the rallies. And the response has been absolutely very, very phenomenal. And I can tell you, I go for most of his campaigns, and I can tell you that you can see that the adoration is very organic. You can see it in the faces of people. People just love to see him, and people love to see that he has come to their communities to visit with them and to take his message to them directly. So for me, even beyond that, for those that are able to take his messages directly where he's not able to go, the response has been phenomenal. And I think we'll see that play out in the election in the next 2-3 days.
So do you foresee this election going into second ballot? I mean, your party, the APC, recording just about 25% of votes.
Absolutely not. I think this is going to be a straight win for somebody. I've always said up until now, I know there's several people contesting for the position, but I think there's really, realistically, only really two parties on the ballot. This is PDP and APC. I mean, all the others, fantastic candidates. They've done great jobs. But the reality is that we have a law that has a certain requirement, and you have to be able to meet the threshold of that requirement. And I think it's only PDP and APC that have the ability at this point to do so. And it's going to be, I mean, I want to be honest to say, I think it's going to be a tight race. But I think Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and APC are going to be able to record victory. I think as early as Sunday evening, Sunday, it will be quite clear who is the front runner. It's going to be Asiwaju. I don't think we're going to go to a second ballot at all. We don't envisage that from all our estimations.
But have you considered the Southeast? We have 5 states there. Have you also considered the South-South geopolitical zones of the country? What has your party done before now to make inroads into these regions?
Yes, we have actually. And we feel that, and we strongly do believe that APC and PDP as well are likely to get at least 25% in all the states, including for APC the Southeast and including for PDP in Southwest as well, which is probably areas that both perceive to be a little weaker. I feel that we will get 25% in those areas, because you have to remember that we do have contestants in those areas, and those contestants have worked very, very hard to be able to garner support in their different communities. And that support also transgresses to Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and APC as a party. So definitely, I think we're going to be able to do that. And yes, we've considered the Southeast, and we know that there are other parties, maybe the third force, as people are calling the Labour Party, which is probably going to be very strong in the Southeast. But what you find is that particular area is a stronghold of the PDP traditionally. So any votes that, any leverage that the Labour Party is going to get from those areas is taken away from our main contender. And, you know, that can only work in our favour, but our base still remains. So I do think we're going to be able to pass that threshold of 25% in at least 24 states. And the simple majority, I think that is going to come down predominantly to the north, specifically to the northwest. And we're doing everything in our power to make sure we deliver those vital votes for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, so that he gets at least the simple majority.
All right, and just before we let you go very quickly, would you say truthfully that your party is going into this election with a united front?
Yes, our party is very united, extremely united. In fact, the events of the last couple of weeks have made us a lot more united. The fact that you see even the National Working Committee, the APC, have come out and have stood strong together with the PCC and with the candidates. I think we are very united. And you see even the president is going out to campaign for us. We're very united and we're very focused. And we have one aim in mind, is to get the votes for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and to see victory for APC all the way.
All right, thank you very much for talking to us today on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that's our program today. Watch a repeat broadcast at 6 in the morning tomorrow. I am Abosedi Adeniro.